back in the pocket, lobs it up for N'Keal Harry. He leaps, makes the catch, dives into the end zone. Touchdown, Arizona State. Manny from the 2 fakes the handoff, jumps over a defender into the end zone with the point. Wilkins. The kick is up, and it is good. Down goes Michigan State, 16-13.
Devils showed out in their trip home this past Saturday night, and here at House of Sparky, we're going to do the same thing. Hello, everyone. Scotty Gange here with Austin Burnett for the House. And Austin, quite a performance from Eno Benjamin, the Devils as a whole, on this past Saturday.
Yeah, it was, and he had a historic night, but we're going to get into that a little bit later. But right now, let's get into those highlights. It was family night in Tempe, but it turned into Eno Benjamin night real quick as Arizona State took on Oregon State in the desert. We kick things off with ASU up 3, and Eno Benjamin spinning around down there, and they're having a tough time stopping him as he takes the highway to the end zone. 44 yards to the house for Eno Benjamin. We're going to keep it with Eno because Eno isn't going to take no for an answer as he breaks ankles and taking names. Takes this one all the way to the house. Eno knows how to get to the end zone. Scores 24-3 in favor of ASU. We're going to switch it up to the defense. Check out Malik Lawal coming in off the right side, and boom! Strips Oregon State Connor Blunt. We're going to show it to you again. Bam! Fumbles the ball, but Oregon State would pounce right back on that one. Jamar Jefferson, true freshman running back for the Beavs. Look at him weave through the offensive line and power into the end zone. 24-10, ASU still up. But hey, N'Keal Harry says, you know what, Eno, whatever you can do, I can do a little bit better. Sparky says tied 2, and sticking with N'Keal Harry, he says, give me the loot. Scores a 41-yard touchdown pass from Manny Wilkins. Sticking with Wilkins, throws it over to Eno Benjamin for the 8-yard touchdown pass, and then Eno Benjamin once again with a 10-yard touchdown run to cap things off with a thrashing 52-24 win over Oregon State. To talk more about the Oregon State game, we bring in our analyst, Jordan Palacio. Jordan, we talk about Eno Benjamin. He had a road to glory type game. What more can you say about the kid?
Not much. I mean, 312 yards really does speak for itself, and it's surprising coming after, a slow week 2 and 3, only getting around 50 combined rushing yards. He had a kind of an up game against Washington, just cracking that 100-yard mark, but this was the game, we all coming into the season were like, this kid could probably be pretty good, and he shows what he's actually capable of. The question was, can they give him the rock? Can they give him the possibility to be great? And they did last week, and we saw the results.
Yeah, they certainly did. And another person we're going to talk to is over on the defensive side, Merlin Robertson. He's a true freshman and already making an impact on this team.
No, absolutely. And when we came to the season, we thought Chase Lucas was going to be that guy on defense, but it's turned out to be, Merlin Robertson. He's kind of come into his own this season as a true freshman, which is really impressive. This defense had question marks all around them, and he's been an exclamation point on this team so far.
Yeah, talk about the good side, but we're going to talk a little bit about the inconsistencies that they've experienced during Washington, Michigan State, and San Diego State. But more recently, they've been playing more consistent. What is so special about this defensive unit as recently?
Well, I think it's a question of who is this defense and who are they and what are they about? Because we saw in the first couple weeks they only give up 65 rushing yards in 2 games. That was good for best in the country. And up until the Oregon State game, they didn't give up a play over 40 yards. Now we kind of see them, the San Diego State game, they gave up over 300 yards on the ground. Against Oregon State, they gave up 254 yards, which would have been the Arizona State record. But it comes down to if they can stop the run, I think is what is going to make the difference for this team coming down the home stretch. You have Colorado, Stanford, USC, and Utah all coming up on the schedule. If they don't stop the run, it could be 0-4. But if they do stop the run, then you're looking at a 3-1 or maybe even 4-0.
Yeah, certainly a tougher test coming up this week against Colorado. But we're going to toss it over to Scotty with more on Eno Benjamin.
Eno, a pretty popular name in Tempe. Yeah, it was that guy that ran up and down the field the other night for tons of yards. Well, those 312 rushing yards earned him the Arizona State all-time single-game rushing record and the Pac12 Offensive Player of the Week award. Now, you may have been surprised by Benjamin's record-breaking performance, but I wasn't. It's all in the name, Eno. E is for explosion. The 5'10", 201-pound back was running angry Saturday night, bursting through the hole downhill like it was nobody's business to dust the Beavers for 2 40-plus yard TD trucks. Now, N is for noisy. Yes, he made some noise around the country for his play, but I'm talking collisions. His ability to gain yards after contact was can't-miss football, and being on the sideline, I think it's pretty safe to say that some Beaver defensemen woke up pretty sore Sunday morning. And finally, O. O is for, well, oh my. This may ultimately be Benjamin's best performance repping the pitchfork, but if you ask him, it's just the start. If his tweet proves to be true, then watch out for number 3 in the backfield. Without a doubt, Eno Benjamin, the biggest pro of the night, perhaps the season in his play this past Saturday night. That's why we're segueing into our pros and cons. I'm taking the cons for today, and the first one I'm going to take for you, Austin, is the fact that Arizona State let Oregon State play with them for 3 quarters. I say Oregon State's the worst team in the Pac-12. I mean, Oregon State is the worst team in the Pac-12, and it was a 7-point game about midway through that 3rd quarter. It's not a very good look for Arizona State, Austin.
Yeah, it wasn't a very good look, but I'm going to throw you my first pro. You know, Herm won his first Pac-12 game this weekend, and that's what he was brought in to do. He starts out with his first win against Oregon State, and he was brought in to develop a winning program, and he's certainly headed in the right direction. Yeah, in the right direction it was. It was a great win for Arizona State, but as good as the running game was, the passing game was pretty quiet. There was 3 passing touchdowns, but it was a struggle. Manny Wilkins looked like he was visibly sick on the field. The passing game wasn't as good as it has been, at least in the first 2 games. It really shocked everybody in how powerful it was. But in these past 2 weeks, the passing game has been extremely quiet and rather silent in both in Washington and in Tempe. Yeah, and although his passing game was quiet, I will say one thing that I did find pretty impressive was the fact that Manny Wilkins drove the Sun Devils right down the field right before half. That 75-yard touchdown play, or the touchdown drive rather, that led the Sun Devils into the halftime up 14. Which I thought was pretty impressive. Yeah, it definitely was impressive, and we've talked so much about Arizona State's running game. We haven't touched much on Oregon State's, and Jamar Jefferson, the freshman, over 250 yards of offense. And so giving up 250 rushing yards to a running back on Oregon State, they don't have the best line. He is a freshman, he's a young player, and to get over 250 yards again in Tempe at home, it's not a very good look for the Sun Devils, and that's one of the bigger cons of Saturday night's game. Yeah, and my final pro is, Eno Benjamin, 312 yards, 30 carries, averaging a first down per carry. And also, you mentioned Jamar Jefferson. He had over 250 yards. He also would have broke ASU's rushing records. It was a running back's world, and we were pretty much just living in it. So, all right, well, that'll do it for this week's edition for Pros and Cons. We're going to toss it over to Julian for Around the Pac-12.
Thanks, guys. And you already know the drill. You know who I am. And that means it's time for Around the Pac-12. We'll start with Stanford, who took on the Fighting Irish, but Notre Dame's quarterback Ian Book had a fantastic game. 250 yards, 4 touchdowns on the day. A rough game for the Cardinal, but Stanford is still ranked in the top 10 college teams in the nation. Moving on, USC and the Arizona Wildcats, it was a tough one, but the Trojans had the last laugh over Arizona in a 24-20 victory. USC's Aka Cedric Ware led the way with his 2 touchdowns and 173 yards. Lastly, the Bruins are not looking too good, but the Buffs are looking really good. The Bruins haven't won a game this season, and the Buffs are undefeated. Thanks to the efforts of Buffs QB Steven Montez, who had 3 touchdowns, was the man. Threw a great game, led the Buffs to their 4th straight win. That's it for Around the Pac-12, but I hope you had as much fun as I did. For House of Sparky, I'm Julian Paras. I'll send it back to you guys.
Now it's time for the fan favorite segment of the show because, well, it's about the fans. We're bringing it back from last year. This is time for Pick Your Poster. The gist of it, me and Austin, we've seen some great posters in our time in covering Arizona State football this season, and we've got to show you which ones are our favorite. So, Austin, I'm going to go with my first favorite. It's 2 of them, so the group of my favorite posters, here they are. This is from this past Saturday night. Oregon State orders burgers from IHOP. I think that kind of went away. It's IHOB, but I'm still going to give them the pass. And, of course, OSU sits when they pee. It's kind of questionable, but I just think it's absolutely hilarious. And throwing them under the bus. Yeah, personally, this is my troll of the week. This one takes the cake for me. So let's take it over to our next Pick Your Poster, and look at all these Sun Devil fans. Oh no! San Diego State Sun Devil fans turning out in their chicken costumes. ASU, Harvard of the West. That's true. Don't get cocky, and I'm with her in this one, my personal favorite. But yeah, a lot of good posters, a lot of good fan turnout here, and can't go wrong with the chicken costumes. I like this I'm with Herm. If you can look closely, you can see the pitchfork is part of the H. That's well done. I'm gonna give that one the winner of today at least. Yeah. Well, that'll wrap it up for this brand new segment of Pick Your Poster. We at House of Sparky partner with Blaze Radio every game for the Blaze Radio Call of the Week. Relive Eno Benjamin's 4th touchdown of the game, courtesy of the one, the only, Mr. Matt Kling.
Wilkins hands it off. Benjamin cuts right, gets through the hole, bounces off a blocker, and into the end zone for the 4th time tonight, for the 3rd time on the ground. Eno Benjamin, the all-time leader in single-game rushing yards, pads the stats. 284 and 3 rushing touchdowns, and ASU pads the lead. Santa Maria.
The Sun Devils hit the road to Boulder, Colorado to take on the Buffaloes for their 2nd Pac-12 matchup, and Blaze Radio will be headed there with Blaine McCormick and Bobby Krause on the call.
Being a collegiate athlete is a full-time job. From daily practices to film study, rehab, team workouts, games, and individual training, it's hard to think that these guys still act as full-time students. But for junior wide receiver Kyle Williams, this idea is redefined. The biomedical engineering major has spent his last 2 summers interning at the nationally recognized prestigious Mayo Clinic in Scottsdale, Arizona. With aspirations of becoming a surgeon, Williams is still all in on the dream of taking football to the next and ultimate level, but he also looks forward to his backup plan in going into medicine. Now, it's a heck of a load to juggle a D1 football player's schedule as well as surge through medical school, but Kyle Williams is showcasing his best traits both on and off the field. And this past Saturday, Williams grabbed his first touchdown of the 2018 season in a pivotal moment to give the Sun Devils a 14-point lead at the half. Now, everybody works hard, but I think Williams just works a little harder. And that's why Kyle Williams is our feel-good story of the week. Well, obviously, we've seen lots of Arizona State highlights, but nothing from the Buffaloes so far. That's why we bring in our man, Mr. Blaine McCormick, to give us a little bit of a preview and taste and a film breakdown of the Buffaloes. Undefeated 4-0, but what has really stood out to you in their play?
Like you said, 4-0. They haven't really had too tough of a schedule because they've been playing a lot of struggling teams. Nebraska, UCLA, to name off a few that are powerhouse programs. But with Colorado, you got to give them a lot of credit to their receivers, their running backs, their quarterback, Steven Montez, and especially their defense. And that's what I want to break down in this first play, is their defense. So you're going to see for UCLA, look at these 3 receivers. This is kind of intimidating when you look at it at first because you see the trips right formation, and then they're going to try and go downfield. But look at Rick Gamboa. He's going to go in, and then the guy right next to him is either has 2 options: bull rush the O-lineman or sweep around. And he swept around, easy sack for the Buffaloes on that one. Then we move to offense, and specifically goal line offense. There's 2 receivers here, and KD Nixon and then also Chris Bounds, that are both going to go in motion in opposite ways. So you see the play progress, and we'll stop it here. KD is already wide open if they decide to go to him, but Bounds is throwing a perfect block, which means that Trayvon McMillan can just sweep right through the hole and get the easy touchdown for the Buffaloes. They won this one against the Bruins, and you know, it's going to be a tough matchup for Arizona State to, first of all, go to Colorado, face off against these guys who are so comfortable at Folsom Field. And it's going to be a test for this secondary with their receivers. Yeah, Blaine, that's something that you didn't notice, or that you didn't show, as the receivers. The thing on first glance is how strong their offensive line is, and McMillan at the running back. We didn't even see Laviska Shenault, arguably one of the best wide receivers in the Pac-12. I don't really think I need to show you. The audience can go Google it, and just Google Laviska Shenault and just be in awe of the talent this guy has. So fast, is very excels really quick off of the snap, and just goes downfield, an easy deep ball target for Steven Montez. And he's one guy in Montez that is very accurate as a quarterback. I think he's one of the best in the Pac-12 South, and we'll see what happens on Saturday. Yeah, we're going to have to wait for that. Devils taking on the Buffs in Colorado at 1 p.m. on Saturday. Blaine, thanks as always for coming in, giving us a little bit of preview of that Colorado offense and defense. All right, swinging it around the Pac-12 for the top plays of the week in Berkeley. That's Ian Bunting. Oh, my goodness, a one-handed grab helping Cal, but they did lose to Oregon.
Now Gardner Minshew throws one deep to his receiver, Aesop Winston, at the 40, the 35, the 30, 20, 15, 10, 5, and I'll see you later. To the house, Washington State. The Cougs loving that one.
And last but certainly not least, you've seen it before. Let's see it again. That's 1, 2, 3. Eno Benjamin, stumble and rumble your way into the end zone. It's a party in Tempe. Eno Benjamin, what a performance as the Devils won it. An incredibly historic performance for Eno Benjamin. Took up most of our show today, but I'm happy to at least be a part of that performance, huh?
Yeah, it wasn't against the greatest team in Oregon State, but anytime you average over a first down per carry, you're having a pretty good day. Well, that'll wrap it up for us at this episode of The House. For Scotty Gaines and our producer, Noah Lau, I'm Austin Burnett. Arizona State taking on Colorado.